Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast, the show dedicated to giving you the strategic insights you need to stay ahead. Today, we are undertaking a deep dive into something that is no longer a fringe discussion, but really a fundamental pillar of modern business. We're talking about green supply chains.
And sustainable logistics.
Exactly. This is a deep dive for you, the professional who needs to understand how efficiency and sustainability are. Well, they've merged.
They absolutely have.
If your business network, from, sourcing all the way to final delivery, doesn't adapt to this massive global shift, it's not just an ethical oversight, it's an immediate operational risk.
It really is. The stakes are immense. And the numbers really underscore how concentrated this challenge is.
Okay, let's get into those.
When we talk about a company's total carbon footprint, the data shows that up to a staggering 80% of emissions, they don't come from the factory or the office.
Not the direct stuff.
Not at all. They come entirely from the supply chain itself.
80%. Just let that number sink in for a minute. That completely flips the traditional view of where you have control, doesn't it?
It flips it on its head. And that single number tells you exactly where the biggest lever for positive change is.
Right.
And while that sounds like, a massive headache, the economic opportunity it unlocks it's just as massive. The value from sustainable business practices is expected to reach an incredible $12 trillion by 2030.
12 trillion. So that's where the smart money is going.
That's where it's flowing. And to put a finer point on it, transportation is the key culprit here.
Yeah.
It's responsible for about 25% of all global emissions.
And it's even higher in the U.S., right?
It is, 20% of the U.S.
Yeah.
So any strategy that doesn't target freight and fleet logistics is frankly missing the point.
So that sets our mission for this deep dive. We are going to unpack the specific strategies, the tech innovations, and the real-world case studies that define this shift. We'll explain exactly how you can ensure your logistics network is not just compliant, but resilient. Future-proof. Okay, let's unpack this right away. GSC Green Supply Chain. We hear that phrase all the time, but what are the modern components that take it beyond just corporate compliance?
Well, a true green supply chain is really an organizational and systemic commitment.
Systemic, okay.
Yeah, the goal is to radically lessen environmental harm from the very first stage, from raw material sourcing all the way through manufacturing, distribution, and this is crucial to end-of-life disposal.
So reverse logistics, too.
Reverse logistics, exactly.
Yeah.
It requires a focus on reducing waste, improving resource use, switching to renewables, and ensuring ethical sourcing.
And when you say resource use, we're really talking about carbon, GHG emissions.
Greenhouse gas emissions, precisely. The whole integrated approach acknowledges that the supply chain is where you get the most leverage against your climate impact.
And that leverage is now it's being twisted by the market itself. It's not just regulators anymore.
Oh, not at all. The customer's demanding it. The data we have shows consumers are actively voting with their wallets.
How so?
We see that 83% of consumers are willing to back brands that use local suppliers. That alone reduces transportation emissions.
Right. And they'll pay more for it, won't they?
They will. 70% are prepared to pay more for products they see as eco-friendly, and 55% will pay a premium for ethically produced goods.
That's a loud and clear market signal. Sustainability isn't just a cost center, it's a value driver.
And that consumer pressure is meeting the regulatory hammer. Global regulations are tightening everywhere, forcing compliance, mandating alternative fuels.
This convergence is why it's moved from optional to strategic.
Exactly. But it's worth noting the adoption disparity. Our source material shows that right now, only about 9% of industry leaders name environmental sustainability as a top priority.
Only 9%.
Which means 91% of the market is currently lagging behind, even with all these obvious pressures mounting.
That makes the urgency feel almost existential. And when we talk about scale, the source material gives us that one eye-opening stat. Supply chain emissions can be 11.4 times higher than a company's direct emissions.
11.4.
That ratio tells you everything. If you want a strategic, long-term impact on your business's health, financial, and environmental, the supply chain is the only place to start. The scale of that problem feels, well, a bit overwhelming. But thankfully, the solutions are becoming digital. We're moving from slow, siloed logistics to smart, optimized, sustainable systems.
We are.
So where do we even begin with the tech that enables this huge leap forward?
You have to start with the data layer. The transition to a viable green supply chain really relies on, I'd say, three core technological pillars.
Okay.
The first and maybe the most immediate win is instrumentation and analysis. We're talking about advanced digital tools, smart sensors, telematics, things that monitor everything in real time.
The goal being to lower those GHG emissions.
By identifying and just eliminating systemic inefficiencies.
That makes sense for a truck fleet, but is simply finding inefficiencies really enough of a leap to justify the huge investment?
It is when you look at the aggregated impact, even in what seem like minor areas. Take a median warehouse, for example.
Okay.
Just by implementing modern infrastructure like smart HVAC and LED lighting, which are enabled by these sensor networks, that facility can cut its GHG emissions by 30%.
30%. That's a huge saving that translates directly into lower operational costs.
Exactly. So the technology isn't just a sustainability cost, it's a financial driver.
And beyond sensors on the ground, the move to the public cloud is having it's a massive and often overlooked impact.
It's a huge shift. Centralized cloud computing is just so much more resource efficient than having tons of local data centers. Accenture found that supply chains running only in the public cloud could cut emissions equivalent to removing 22 million cars from the road.
22 million. Wow.
The sheer aggregation of that computational power makes an immense difference. Then you have the second pillar,
Which is?
optimization, driven by artificial intelligence, AI,
Right. This is where you get into streamlining complex routing.
and improving decision-making speed, accuracy. The famous example everyone brings up is the UPS Orion model. We all know the result was massive.
It cut carbon impact equivalent to taking 20 million cars off the road. But how does the AI actually do that?
It's incredibly nuanced. Orion uses these advanced algorithms to map the perfect route, down to the tiniest detail.
So it's minimizing idle time, rerouting for traffic.
Rerouting for traffic, for weather, and famously, virtually eliminating left turns to avoid waiting. By removing all these simple delays and making sure every truck is full and efficient, AI just slashes the carbon footprint and the transportation costs at the same time.
You can't talk about global supply chains without talking about trust and transparency. That brings us to blockchain.
That's the third critical piece.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute transparency. Blockchain gives you an unalterable chain of custody, which is vital for accountability across a global supplier network.
It's about proving your claims.
Exactly. And the benefits are immediate. Renault, for example, cut its non-compliance costs by 50%.
50%? How?
By using blockchain to monitor supply quality and verify that their raw materials were, in fact, sustainable. The ability to audit instantly saves a ton of time and money.
Okay, so that's the digital transformation. Let's switch to the physical side of things. The actual trucks on the road. The eco-friendly transportation solutions.
Right. The physical shift away from fossil fuels is happening fast. The integration of electric vehicles, EVs, into logistics fleets is just transformative for emissions.
Especially for that last mile delivery.
Last mile, regional delivery, absolutely. And we're seeing concrete commitments now, not just pilot programs.
Yeah.
A Dewey Pile, for instance, has 10 electric hybrid trucks and a firm plan to switch to 100% electric forklifts by 2028.
It's costly up front, I imagine.
It is, but it boosts long-term fuel efficiency, and it reduces air pollution right where they operate.
But EVs aren't an immediate solution for everything, right? Not for heavy freight or long haul.
No, they're not, which is why the whole ecosystem is diversifying. You have alternative fuels like biofuels and hydrogen becoming crucial for longer distances. Companies like C.H. Robinson are actively building out alternative fuel programs to support that.
And we shouldn't forget the low-tech stuff.
Never. The continued use of bikes for local delivery in dense cities. Minimal emissions, and it helps with traffic congestion. It's a win-win.
So if you're listening to this, how do all these huge changes from AI routing to fleet electrification translate into a real competitive advantage for you? How does this help you stay ahead?
The shift to GSCs delivers environmental benefits, yes, but the real strategic value is the financial and reputational advantage it creates.
Let's talk about the financial side first.
Every initiative we've discussed, reducing energy use, optimizing transport routes, minimizing waste, it all leads directly to significant cost savings, better fuel efficiency, better resource use.
And that positive feedback loop encourages more investment.
It does. But, we have to acknowledge the reality of it. You brought up the high upfront costs earlier. How do you square transitioning to an EV fleet with the immediate pressure for quarterly returns?
That is the essential challenge.
It is, and it requires a strategic commitment from the very top. The payback comes in risk mitigation and market access. Look at green procurement.
Sourcing environmentally friendly and ethically produced materials.
Right. It's a practical strategy that minimizes risk and it maximizes your compliance with global standards, and it's moving into the mainstream fast. Our sources show 20% of chief procurement officers at big European companies are already focused on sustainability metrics.
So it's becoming a core selection criteria.
Absolutely. And prioritizing local suppliers isn't just good PR. It's a measurable way to drastically cut transportation emissions and simplify your carbon accounting.
So it sounds like sustainability has to be baked into the core business model. It's about long-term stability over short-term returns.
It must become a fundamental value, not just an add-on. But you have to recognize the complexity. Besides the high upfront cost, companies face huge difficulty with regulatory compliance.
The rules are always changing.
Constantly. And it demands extra resources, specialized expertise, just to monitor and report and meet these strict standards. It requires a sustained commitment.
So if the complexity is high and the cost is significant, then collaboration has to be the key. You can't do it alone. You need ethical supplier partnerships.
Collaboration is completely non-negotiable. Building strong, ethical partnerships ensures everyone in the chain is operating transparently and working toward the same goals.
And we see this at the largest scale, with companies setting these monumental collaborative goals.
You do. Think about Walmart. Their goal is to cut 1 billion metric tons of GHG emissions from their supply chain by 2030.
A billion. That's a number that requires hundreds of partners to be compliant.
And innovative. We also see industry-wide efforts like the Responsible Minerals Initiative, over 400 companies, or the SAI platform with PepsiCo, all working together on sustainable agriculture.
These goals prove that change isn't theoretical, it's happening right now. Let's look at a couple more quick case studies to show it's achievable.
For sure.
Unilever. They've committed to a carbon-neutral supply chain by 2039, and their strategy relies heavily on two things we've talked about: EVs and biofuels.
They're investing now to secure that future advantage.
Yeah.
And IKEA is a perfect example of blending efficiency with sustainability.
How are they doing it?
They're using sophisticated intermodal shipping solutions.
Right.
So they're combining different transport methods, long-haul rail and sea, and then only using trucks for the final, shortest leg of the journey.
Which maximizes efficiency and minimizes emissions across their entire global operation.
Drastically.
These successes show that adopting green supply chain management it's rapidly becoming a core strategic necessity, not just for risk reduction, but for market differentiation and long-term economic resilience.
So let me leave you with a final thought to consider as you process this deep dive.
Okay.
We've seen that 70% of consumers are willing to pay more for sustainable products. The market is ready.
Right.
Yet only 9% of industry leaders currently prioritize environmental sustainability.
Yeah.
So, given the regulatory inevitability, the financial upsides, and the consumer demand, how quickly will the remaining 91% be forced to catch up?
To those early movers who already see it as a strategic necessity.
Exactly. The adoption curve is about to get very, very steep.
Yeah.
And positioning yourself now is crucial.
A steep curve indeed. That was an incredibly detailed look at the strategic imperative of mastering green supply chains. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the future of sustainable logistics. If you found this discussion valuable and you want more curated knowledge delivered straight to you, please take a moment to subscribe to The Deep Dive wherever you get your audio.
And we really encourage you to continue this journey by reading the full source material, Green Supply Chains, The Future of Sustainable Logistics. The link is waiting for you right there in the show notes.
Thank you for tuning in to the SmartKeys podcast. We'll catch you next time.